If you watch and listen this video carefully, then you will certainly understand this lesson. That statement is an example of a conditional statement. Ano nga ba ang conditional statement? Yan ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon dito sa ating matsayang talakayan. Kaya, stay tuned! Hello, grade 8 learners! For today's video, we are going to discuss if-then statement. At the end of this video, you will determine the relationship between the hypothesis and the conclusion of an if-then statement and transform a statement into an equivalent if-then statement. What is a conditional statement? It is a combination of two statements, the condition and the outcome. The condition is what we call the hypothesis, and the outcome is the conclusion. In the conditional statements, we have two parts. The part following if is the hypothesis, and the part following then is the conclusion. Moreover, conditional statement composed of two clauses, the if clause and the then clause. We can denote a letter for each clause. P for the if clause and Q for the then clause. So the statement is if P, then Q. Conditional statement is commonly known as the if-then statement and can be represented in this symbol, which can be read as if P then Q or P implies Q. Meaning, if this happens, then that will happen. Wherein this happens is the hypothesis, that will happen is the conclusion. The simple flow of reasoning from the if clause to the then clause is called the simple implication. For example, given the conditional statement, P, two distinct planes intersect. Q, the intersection is a line. So in if-then statement, if two distinct planes intersect, then their intersection is a line, wherein P is the hypothesis and Q is the conclusion. Now, let's identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. Always remember that hypothesis follows the if clause and the conclusion follows the then clause. If I win the game, then I'll get the prize. What do you think is the hypothesis and the conclusion? The hypothesis is I win the game, and the conclusion is I'll get the prize. Next example. If I say bad words, then I will be punished. Which do you think is the hypothesis? You're right. Hypothesis is I say bad words. And the conclusion is I will be punished. Next example. If I study hard, then I will graduate. Which do you think is the hypothesis? Great job! Hypothesis is I study hard. How about the conclusion? Correct! The conclusion is I will graduate. Great job, grade 8! Now, let's try to write in the if-then form. Let's say the hypothesis is a number is even. And the conclusion is it is divisible by 2. So connecting it using if and then. So we have if a number is even, then it is divisible by 2. Another example, if the hypothesis is a polygon has 4 sides and the conclusion is it is a quadrilateral, so in if-then form, great job! So we have if a polygon has 4 sides, then it is a quadrilateral. Take note that conditional statements might not always be written in the if-then form. So in that case, pwede nating isulat in the if-then form. So let's say, I'll wash the car if the weather is nice. So in if-then form, if the weather is nice, then I will wash the car. So the hypothesis is the weather is nice, and the conclusion is I will wash the car. Another example, I'll be a millionaire when I will win the lottery. What do you think is the hypothesis and the conclusion? Excellent! The hypothesis is I will win the lottery. And the conclusion is I will be a millionaire. So, in if-then form, we have if I will win the lottery, then I will be a millionaire. Let's try more. Now, identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of the following statements. I'll bring an umbrella if it rains tomorrow. To easily identify the hypothesis and the conclusion, write in if-then form. So, in if-then form, we have if it rains tomorrow, then I'll bring an umbrella. Now, what do you think is the hypothesis? Correct! The hypothesis is it rains tomorrow. How about the conclusion? Yes, you're right. The conclusion is I'll bring an umbrella. Another one, I'll wash the dishes when I'm not busy. Right? In if-then form. So we have if I'm not busy, then I'll wash the dishes. So the hypothesis is I'm not busy. How about the conclusion? The conclusion is I'll wash the dishes. Excellent, grade 8. Now let's try to write again if-then form. 18 years old are eligible to drive. To write in if-then form, let us identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. The hypothesis is 18 years old and the conclusion is eligible to drive. So in if-then form, if you are 18 years old, then you are eligible to drive. Another example, a right angle measures 90 degrees. What is the hypothesis and what is the conclusion? So, the hypothesis is a right angle, and the conclusion is measures 90 degrees. Now, what is its if-then form? Great job! In if-then form, if it is a right angle, then it measures 90 degrees. Another one, all congruent segments have the same length. So the hypothesis is all congruent segments, and the conclusion is have the same length. So, in if-then form, correct! If all segments are congruent, then they have the same length. Great job, grade 8! Now it's your turn. Get your paper and pen, then try to do this activity. For letter A, identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. If a triangle is isosceles, then at least 2 of its sides are congruent. And for letter B, write in if-then form. Equilateral triangles are congruent. And that's for today, guys. Mag-practice at magtiyaga upang lalong maging galing. Again, this is Teacher Dali na nagsasabing, practice makes perfect. Thanks for watching!